Everyone, again, I want to welcome everyone to our Housing Broward workshop. Throughout 2025, the Coordinating Council of Broward has been putting on Zoom a number of Housing Broward workshops intended on helping the community of Broward, faith-based, nonprofit, for-profit, and elected officials better understand the nuance of housing affordability. So we picked several topics that are timely and relevant to the housing crisis here in Broward County. And with each workshop, we have a different set of subject matter experts that are going to be presenting to all of you, that have presented to all of you. We have some time for question and answer. And again, the goal is really for you to be able to walk away better understanding the housing affordability crisis so that you can be empowered to be a stronger advocate, address myths and misconceptions, and certainly if you are a practitioner, to identify perhaps new partners, new data points, and for all of you in the industry to just have a better grasp on the depth and breadth of everything as it relates to housing here in Broward County. Today's presentation is going to be really fantastic. Not that all of them aren't really fantastic, but specifically today, we're here to talk about housing affordability and public policy. And the reason why I think it's so important is because we recognize that public policy from the local level at the city to the federal level really impacts our ability to address this issue. And certainly there have been some public policy challenges that we have faced over the last several years, but we're not here to talk about the challenges. What we're really here to talk about is the progress and the successes and all the great things that we have done as a community, and to provide, again, an opportunity for some of our partners to really showcase some of the things that they've done that perhaps you don't even realize becomes one of the tools in the housing affordability toolbox. And so right off the bat, I am going to turn our presentation and our call over to Isabel Cosier-Carballo. Isabel is the president and the CEO of the South Florida Regional Planning Council.
I just got a promotion. I'm the executive director. I like president CEO better though.
The executive director of the South Florida Regional Planning Council. As long as you've been there, I might want to talk to your board chair about promoting you to president and CEO.
There you go. I like it. It's a lot more cachet.
Yes. But what I'm most excited about Isabel's presentation is the fact that I don't want to make any assumptions, and yet I am going to assume that most of you have probably never even heard of the South Florida Regional Planning Council and don't understand the depth and breadth of impact that they have as it relates to housing affordability, the nexus of housing and transportation, public policy at a regional level. And so without any further ado, I am going to turn it over to Isabel for her presentation. After her presentation, I'll provide an opportunity for the audience to have some question and answers. After that, I will give a short and brief presentation about some of the work in public policy that the Coordinating Council has done. And then we're really going to end our conversation as probably an annual highlight of these workshops in speaking to Senator Nan Rich, who, if you don't know, you should know, has really been carrying the torch of housing affordability in Broward and beyond. And we're really lucky to have such a champion on our side. And I'm really pleased that we're going to end the conversation really looking back and reflecting, Senator, on all the great things that we've been able to accomplish. And truly, my goal today is for all of you to recognize that the next time you hear someone say that we're not doing anything about affordable housing in Broward, that you are equipped with the talking points to hear not just what we are doing, but how we really are a leader in the state of Florida as it relates to addressing the housing crisis. Before we turn it over, I want to give a huge shout out to Yana and Harrison. Without them, none of this would be working properly. And so again, Yana and Isabel, I am going to turn it over to you. Isabel, thank you for being here.
Oh, it's my pleasure. So it's so nice to see so many friends online. And I wanted just to say how privileged I feel having the opportunity to serve on the CCB over several years at the invitation of Senator Rich. It's been a great for me, meeting so many nice people and seeing the work that's being done. I also want to just take a minute before I start. I just want to thank Senator Rich and Sandra in particular, both of them, There is not a single program that I've undertaken with the council, that the council has undertaken over the last few years that doesn't heavily rely on Senator Rich and Sandra when it comes to issues of housing, mental health, everything. They know that I have taken advantage of their time and generosity, and every time we have anything there, I call them up, I go, help, we need help. So, and fortunately, they always respond to the call. So about myself, I came to the regional council in 1996 for one project, as you know, how that works. And then I became director in 2025 at the very end, and I've been here ever since. Prior to that, I worked in the Florida legislature. I worked in the Florida House as chief of staff, legislative aide for a member, and then almost 2 years in the Senate before I went to work for Broward County in intergovernmental affairs. So I had the benefit of seeing statewide, county, and now in the regional perspective. And so I consider myself very blessed and all the good people I've met along the way. Perfect. Okay, so next slide, please. And we're going to be talking about the regional council and how we're involved. But first, I want to just tell you about regional planning council because a lot of people don't know anything about them. And as Sandra mentioned, a lot of people don't even know a lot of the stuff we do, and that's our fault. We've always been really good at giving credit to other people. And also there was a time where everything that we did had its own little logo, so no one ever tied them all back to us. So an important thing to know about the Regional Planning Council, South Florida in particular, is that we've been around for a long time. We actually began as a collaboration in 1969 when they were trying to build a jet port in the Cypress Swamp, which is where, you know, the airfield is now. That's so much subject of conversation. And then our counties in 1974, there were 6 counties at the time, created an interlocal agreement and asked us to help work on the regional issues facing the region. So you can imagine how long ago that was. And then in 1985, there was the Growth Management Act, and the Florida legislature recognized the regional planning councils as the only multi-purpose regional entity that is in a position to plan and coordinate intergovernmental solutions to growth-related problems on greater than local issues. So what does that mean? Affordable housing isn't a Broward County issue, it's not a Miami-Dade County, it's everybody's issues, and we're all connected. And as a result, the regional council, by virtue of our board, which is excellent. So our board, just so you know, is made up of county elected officials. Each county appoints their members to the council. Our region is Monroe, Miami-Dade, and Broward counties. And then we have municipal elected officials that are appointed by the League of Cities. And then there are gubernatorial appointees, obviously appointed by the governor. And then we also have ex officio members from important state agencies. So Water Management District, the Department of Transportation, the Department of Environmental Protection. So it creates a very nice governing board and expertise in the council from our elected officials. We are one of 10 regional planning councils. And again, our region is Miami-Dade, Broward, and Monroe counties. I'll make this presentation available to Sandra, so don't worry about taking notes or anything like that. And right now we're serving an estimated 4.9 million residents. The Regional Planning Council role has changed over the years. We used to have, and Senator Rich knows this, we used to have some regulatory authority in our comprehensive plan review process, where we would look at the plans from the local governments and compare it to the strategic regional policy plan created by regional stakeholders to see how the comp plans, the plans were fitting into the regional picture. That went away a long time ago. We used to be able to say not consistent, send it back and try again. But now we are just a commenting agency, which we still try to provide technical assistance, insights to our member units of local governments, and also advise what is now known as the Florida Commerce. It used to be Department of Community Affairs. A big part of what we do today, I think a blessing in disguise, what we really focus on today is convening our regional stakeholders, especially our elected officials across boundaries, to have regional conversations on issues of importance. Affordable housing certainly being one of the top ones, but also transportation, community resilience now, Florida's coral reef. So myriad topics that we address at the regional council in cooperation and with collaboration with our local officials who we depend on very much for their expertise. We also provide specialized research, and we're also the Economic Development District. We were designated in 1996 by the U.S. Department of Commerce. You'll see how all this fits together as the Economic Development District. And part of our job there is to create the comprehensive economic development strategy with regional stakeholders. And what that strategy does, it provides guidance on the key issues facing the region impacting economic development. Clearly, affordable housing is one of the ones that comes to that. And looking at our says that was last updated in 2022 and is scheduled to be updated again starting next year. Affordable housing was clearly a top issue. We in our research found that, cost burden obviously is very high, no news to any of one here. And it's among the highest in the state. So while South Florida actually does not have the highest housing costs in the nation, the confluence of limited land, low wages, and a very high cost of living makes this region very difficult and unaffordable for many, including people that have resources, as you know. One of the things that makes us unique among the regional planning councils, again, there's 10 of them, that we, years ago, 28 years ago, we were involved and created a revolving loan fund program for small minority businesses, small businesses that were unable to secure conventional financing. So we're not competing with the private sector, but we're filling in that gap of businesses that are employers, job creation, providing economic input into the region, and we were able to assist them. A lot of people don't know that the base of our economy in South Florida really is run through small businesses. We hear a lot about big companies, but most of it are small businesses. So we provide support there. That eventually led to us being able to secure additional revolving loan funds. And I will tell you a little bit more about how we're contributing to economic development, affordable housing, job creation in those funds later on in the presentation. Another thing that we do as well is that we secure, we develop grants, sometimes through the council for our projects, but we also assist local governments and others in developing grant proposals and also securing funding for important projects. So that's very important. One of the ones that I'm particularly proud of is one that looked through the Department of Defense, that we looked at South Florida's military installations and identified issues that were going to impact their mission resilience and ability to continue on. And we were able to secure money for that and identified some resilience issues in the communities. I'm just very pleased to announce that we just secured $350,000 for an access road flooding study for Homestead Air Reserve Base in Miami-Dade. And like that, we're working in Broward with South Florida Ocean Measurement Facility, Southcom, U.S. Army Garrison in Doral, and also we assisted U.S. Naval Station Key West. So I'm very pleased with that. And again, we provide technical assistance in a variety of projects. Next slide, please. Again, I mentioned one of the things that we do, and I think Senator Rich would agree that we do, I think, fairly well, is that we're able to bring together our elected officials from our region, but also including in Palm Beach County. Affordable housing, again, has continued and to be a topic for us of priority importance. And over the years, we've had a number of regional convenings and programs to move the conversation forward and develop joint strategies. So right here, you see a picture from our mayor's roundtable that we had in 2023 with our mayors from Palm Beach, Miami-Dade, Monroe County, and of course, Commissioner Fisher from Broward. And all our convenings that you'll see as I go through them a little bit more, they all touch on the affordable housing issue, because it's all connected, and it's a critical part of economic development, livability, and a good quality of life in South Florida. Next slide, please. And I will get to this in just a second. One thing I neglected to mention that I wanted to, I'm really focusing a lot on the regional convenings, but all our program areas are planning areas. It's not included in here, but we do a lot of planning for other agencies that help move forward the connectivity between transit, housing, mobility, and the ability of folks to be able to get to their jobs and recreation, all the good life. So for example, we do a lot of work with the South Florida Regional Transportation Authority. They've been a great partner for us for, I don't know, 10 years. And we assist them with all their station area planning. We look at connectivity and how to create places for people to live that they can afford. Another project that we partner with in Miami-Dade was with the Miami-Dade TPO. Last year, we had a project to study the nexus between affordable housing and transit. And we looked at the policies, and there were recommendations against station area analysis. So while I'm not really talking too much about that, I just want you to know there's a whole part of our program that is really dedicated to assisting local governments and agencies with this type of planning. So again, the takeaway from the county mayor's conversation, coming back to this, was our local governments are doing a lot. Our counties are doing a lot to promote affordable housing. Broward County, with Senator Rich's leadership, of course, has been a great leader because she spearheaded the effort to create the trust fund for affordable housing. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that, how that's helping Broward in particular. But you'll see there were a lot of policies, inclusionary zoning policies and challenges. And a lot of the challenges are the land scarcity, the rising costs of construction, insurance. Vacation rentals has been a big issue. I'd like to look a little bit more closely at that, see how he can help address those issues. But again, people are working to address this problem, but it's obviously very challenging. So I would say, and I think that we're going to be having after budget season, because I know our commissioners are all pretty busy right now. We'll look to have a follow-up conversation because it's time for us to regroup. In the past, we've also had these conversations with the legislative staff from the counties to develop joint programs that could be presented to the legislature and recommendations. Senator Rich was very important in that as well. We also have joint council meetings with the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council. Treasure Coast is Palm Beach, Martin, St. Lucie, and Indian River. Of course, the metropolitan statistical area is Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach. And what we know is that we're all connected. You can live in one county and work in another and recreate in another. So we always try to, think holistically. We do a lot with the Treasure Coast Council on a bunch of different things, including also regional conferences, some of which I'm going to touch on now. Next slide, please. Great. So I just quickly want to go over some of the planning efforts that we've been undertaking over the last few years. This was a very important meeting. As you can see, Senator Rich is right there on stage, always shows up to help. And this was looking at mental health issues and how do you support, this population. Honestly, I feel like I have mental health issues myself, just saying. But anyway, with housing and supportive services. And so we were hosted at Nova Southeastern University. We had more than 160 attendees from the region. And I thought it was a very great meeting. And we discussed again the different issues in the mental health crisis and the need for continuing care, housing, also financial consideration, and what are solutions. And this is a conversation that needs to be continued, and the CCB is the right group to help move this forward. Sandra was there as well, did a great job. And so thank you. Next slide. Last year was also a great year for this conversation because we were looking at the aging of South Florida's population and what that means for the region. And my deputy director, who's also our economic development and research director, did a great job, a lot of research. And what we see is that there is a demographic shift happening not only across the nation, but also, in South Florida, and that it has serious ramifications for how we think about transportation, about housing, supportive services, etc. So I'm trying to figure out I had another thing, but you can see here, by 2050, South Florida's 65 plus population is going to reach an estimated 2.13 million people. That's an increase of almost 55% in just the last few years, 2021. So you can see, and of those, more than 500,000 would be more than 85. So the national trend is that by 2030, Americans 65 and older are going to outnumber those under 18 for the first time. And along with that comes economic, financial pressures, of course, the housing, healthcare gaps, transportation, and also the fact that since folks have been having less children, it's not like before where you could rely on extended family to be providing care for their elders in their home. I, for example, was very blessed in that my grandparents lived with us. And in my family, my mom and dad, my sister and I, and my grandparents, they lived with us until they passed away. So that was a real blessing. But they weren't in a situation where they had no one looking out for them, which unfortunately for some of our seniors, they're going to have to rely on people that may not be family members. And that may be all right. But I'm just saying it's a different environment than what we had in the past. Next slide, please. Another program that we've been working on, again, I mentioned the SEDS committee earlier. This is chaired by our immediate past chair, Senator Geller, who's also, of course, a Broward County Commissioner. And Senator Geller has been a real champion on this economic development front. We've talked about the development of the comprehensive economic development strategy. And as part of that work, with our work group of private sector, public sector, nonprofit leaders, they undertook a study looking at what's the economic benefit and advantages of transit-oriented development? How has that helped further affordable housing, workforce housing development? And how do you create an environment where employers also have people that are able to work in the region? This is a big problem. Employers have a difficulty getting employees. So we have an extensive document, again, prepared under the leadership and direction of Senator Geller, in cooperation with Randy DeShazo, my deputy director. It's a new study completed just this year, and it's going to be the subject of a conference we're having on September 11th. You're all invited to come. You'll see our website information. You're invited to come, and I urge you to register because we are reaching capacity. We're at almost 150 registrants already. It will be at the Broward Center for the Performing Arts. And we have a really great program put together, and I think it'll be good. And then we will develop next steps and see what needs to happen moving forward to the future and move this along. If you could move to the next slide, please, Yana. Wonderful. This is another example of a regional conference we hosted, and it was looking at first and last mile innovation in the region, the connectivity. How do you connect people to transit opportunities? And again, as you'll see in the description of this report, we were looking at what types of densities and land uses support connectivity, and what is the interrelationship with affordable housing and mobility. So again, I just want to show you, this is a constant theme in our work. Connectivity, affordable housing, transportation, getting people to jobs, creating jobs, and creating a better quality of life for our residents in South Florida. I don't want to run out of time. So now I'm getting, next slide, please. I'm getting to what makes us unique in the state. So I mentioned before our SEDS program, that we're an economic development district, how we create our revolving loan funds program, and how it's expanded and how we've been able to use it. So we're only one of 2 regional councils that have revolving loan fund programs. And ours is by far, by magnitude, the largest program in the state and top performing program. We have a very good loan officer, currently Jeff Tart, who's doing a great job. So we, again, through our planning and our policy and our board's leadership, very much supporting affordable housing, we also are able to bring financial resources to the table to help move those programs forward. So we have a traditional loan fund. This is a fund that I mentioned that we created 28 years ago, and that's used for the small businesses. But there's also $1 million in there we're working with the CRA and Homestead to create first-time homeowner, single-family homes. So that makes us, a little different, the single-family home aspect. We were also able to secure a brownfields revolving loan fund. So back when I was here in the council, I was working on Eastward Ho, which you might remember was about reinvesting in the eastern communities, moving a portion of population growth. We were trending 4 out of 5 people were moving to the west. This was 1995, 96, and the Governor's Commission for Sustainable South Florida said we need an Eastward Ho initiative. We have to relieve pressure on people pushing westward into the wetlands that we need for water supply and that we need for Everglades restoration. So, and how do we revitalize our eastern cities? And so we worked in that. So we were declared in 1998 a Brownfield Showcase community, one of the first 16 in the country, a national showcase community that brought all sorts of federal resources and assistance to South Florida in the areas of brownfields, assessment, remediation, and then now redevelopment. So we have secured this EPA revolving loan fund for brownfields, and we're investing quite a bit in Miami-Dade and Broward in particular, but also in Monroe County to clean up contaminated sites and put them back into the use that best serves the community. We also have a very unique partnership with the South Florida Community Development Fund. Well, we created the fund. Let's put it that way. We created this program, but we partner with Broward County, the Urban League in Broward County, the Housing Finance Authority of Broward County, to put a lot of funding into this program. So Broward County is the one that's benefiting by far the best in the region with the development of affordable housing because of this unique partnership, which was only possible in part with the funding from Broward County, which is possible because of Senator Rich's leadership on the issue of creating funding for affordable housing. So you can see how it all fits together. Next slide, please. So again, the South Florida Community Development Fund, it's Southeast because we created it. It also includes Palm Beach. So it targets small businesses, startup businesses, and disadvantaged areas with capital and development services. You can see it there. And this is the partnership that I was telling you about. Broward County Housing Finance Authority, Broward County Urban League of Broward County provides additional funding. And you can see down at the bottom some of the housing that's been developed and the focus areas. I was just actually writing an email about this yesterday. Let me see if I can find it. But the bottom line is we're just now starting some new multifamily townhome development in Sunrise and Miramar. And again, Fort Lauderdale, Lauderhill, Lauderdale Lakes, City of Hollywood. These are all areas where the housing is being developed. And I'll tell you numbers in a minute. Next slide, please. So you can see right here and all the housing that's being developed in Broward County. You can see they have the majority of the housing. West Park, I think the last number was 23 units of housing that it's either developed or under development right now. Single family home, first time home buyers. And then again, we just secured the financing for the multi-townhome developments. They're going to add, I think, like something like 28 or 30 units more. So great success. All righty. So moving on to the next slide. I did mention earlier that we have this Brownfields Revolving Loan Fund, and I am so pleased to tell you that this is great, especially for Hollywood residents like Sandra, that we secured this year $3.2 million in supplemental brownfields revolving loan funds. And of that, $2 million is going to be used to clean up and help support the redevelopment of that toxic Hollywood incinerator ash dump. And the proposal is that it's going to be cleaned up. As you can imagine, Mayor Furr was overjoyed since he also represents Hollywood. And the plan is that it's going to be redeveloped into multifamily rental units, 315. There's supposed to be 400 square feet of grocery anchored commercial space. I'm not exactly sure what all that means, but the idea is that we're creating retail opportunities in open space, green space, and housing that's going to serve the residents. And of course, it will help Broward County because it will be increased revenue that will be generated in tax base. And the project is expected, according to staff, to deliver about $71 million in private investment. So again, a great success story, and we're thrilled to be part of it. And I think with that, that's my last slide. I hope this has been helpful. I'll be happy to send you again. Sandra has already the slide presentation. I hope I didn't ramble on. If there's anything I can do to answer any questions, I'd be happy to do it. And thank you for the opportunity to be with you this morning.
Isabel, thank you so much. That was fantastic. I know all about what the South Florida Regional Planning Council does, and yet still I learned something new. So I appreciate it.
So gracious.
I wanted to ask if any member of the public has any questions. If you have a question, if you could just raise your hand on Zoom so that I could make sure to call on you. And while you're waiting for that, I have two questions. You kind of touched on it, but if you could just dive a little deeper. You mentioned the $3.2 million revolving loan fund supplemental award through the bipartisan infrastructure law to expand the council's redevelopment of brownfield and Superfund sites. What's the long-term plan for these sites?
Well, you know, it varies from site to site. We just funded a bunch also in Miami-Dade County. And in Miami-Dade County, one of the sites is also for affordable housing. It's also revolves around the medical district near Jackson Health System. So that's all being redeveloped for housing and businesses and medical support. I mean, honestly, we work very hard to develop these grant proposals to secure the funding and bring it to South Florida. And then we partner with local communities. There's a big project going on at the Claude Pepper Park, also in North Miami, that is going to have senior housing, affordable housing, recreational facilities, health centers, all that sort of thing. Obviously, we're a small part of the puzzle, but a critical part of the puzzle, because as you know, it's very complicated to put these projects together, and the gap financing is very important to make them move forward. And so again, we're just going to keep trying to get as much money as we can to move projects forward. I guess that's the long-term strategy that I can offer you
Thank you for
today.
that, Isabel. Thank you. Janet, you had a question?
Yes, we have I'm up in Pompano Beach. I have a community mental health clinic, and we have a property that we can turn a portion of the property into housing.
Okay,
Wanted to do a mommy and me kind of shelter-like program.
nice.
But
Okay.
I'm a virgin to the housing part, and I needed somebody to hold my hand through it and to help me understand how to go about doing housing and setting up and configuring the units into apartments, because the city said we could do that. We have that option to do that.
Janet, if you email that to me, I could make sure to connect you with some resources on that.
I would think that Ralph Stone would be a great resource, and we work very closely with him. And Senator Rich certainly has a better idea of how that might work best.
Yeah, if you send me an email, Janet, I'm more than happy to help you with that.
Okay, then so I'll do that, Sandra.
At the right time, we're happy to partner with you when it gets to the point where you need the funds and things like that. We can work with Broward County, Pompano,
Okay.
and try to get something going.
Okay, great.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Isabel, again, thank you so much.
You're
Like I
welcome.
said, I know everyone learned something because I certainly did as well. We are now I'm going to have Yana pull up the next PowerPoint presentation. And I am delivering this on behalf of the senator, and I'll ask her some questions afterwards. But really just truly humbled by all that the Coordinating Council and Broward County has accomplished since the CCB reconvened in 2016. And just kind of want to take you again through some of our successes and some of the things that we've done, because far too often I hear on social media commentary that we're not doing anything here in Broward, and it couldn't be farther from the truth. Again, I'm really proud of everything, and I hope that this very brief PowerPoint and the subsequent conversation with Senator Rich really helps all of you and really empowers all of you into just what we have accomplished. And today is just a snippet and a snapshot of that. So Yana, whenever you're ready, I am ready to get started as well. So again, I just wanted to kind of walk you all through Broward County public policy successes that we've had. This is just a fraction of some of the successes, but perhaps some of the highlights. So next slide, please. Go back one. There we go. Thank you. We've got Ralph Stone on the call. And I remember back in 2016, nearly a decade ago, when the CCB decided to reconvene, it was right around the time that the United Way published their first ALICE report. And ALICE is an acronym that stands for Asset Limited, Income Constrained, and Employed. And now ALICE represents 50% of Broward County households. Let me pause for a second and repeat that, because that is huge. 50% of Broward County households are ALICE or below, which means that half of Broward County households could not withstand a $500 financial emergency. And I think that it's really important, whether, again, you're an elected official, nonprofit, for-profit, or faith-based, to really sit with that for a second and understand that 1 out of every 2 households in Broward County could not withstand a financial emergency. It would be catastrophic for them and their households. And so what was great about the Coordinating Council of Broward reconvening in 2016 around the ALICE report was that the CCB is comprised of the largest health and human service funders and stakeholders in Broward. And none of them were really subject matter experts when it came to housing affordability. We have child welfare, public safety, education, the Area Agency on Aging, we've got the Department of Health, we've got all of these entities that all recognize that without addressing housing affordability, whatever it was that they were working on, senior services, children's services, health, the hospital systems, public safety, it didn't matter if we weren't all coming together around the issue of housing. And so in 2016, I sat down with Ralph Stone, who of course is the kingpin of housing here in Broward County, the executive director of our Housing Finance Authority and the director of community development and housing finance. And really started to have a conversation with him around what housing affordability looked like and what housing investment looked like. And over the last 10 years, we've really had some remarkable successes that I'm so pleased to share with all of you. Some highlights included, again, us publishing Housing Broward, which was the first countywide comprehensive strategic plan back in 2017. Of course, that led us in 2018 to have the courage and confidence to put onto ballot referendum the creation of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, which of course passed with 73% of the vote. Last year, the Broward County Commission adopted their 10-year affordable housing master plan, and really housing stability has been at the cornerstone of the work that the CCB has done. Next slide, please. So some of our successes, of course, again, I just mentioned creating that trust fund with 73% of voters voting in favor. You would be hard pressed to find voters voting 73% for literally anything or anyone. And so I think that that really showed just how bipartisan housing affordability was as an issue, And the way that we came about it was really meant to be bringing everyone together. We've really tried to make housing the issue that everyone comes together on, something that isn't partisan, something that isn't left up to us versus them, something that really unites. And I'd love to be able to say, and I hope that many of you will join me in saying that I think one of the reasons why we have been so successful is because we really have included everyone. And we've really tried to make it a bipartisan issue, recognizing that housing impacts everyone. We've identified local funding sources for various housing programs, including new multifamily development, home repair, and first-time home buyer assistance. We've been really proud of the work that we've done in that. And of course, most notably, the Board of County Commissioners committing half of the county's recaptured tax increment financing, TIF funding, from expiring CRAs to fund the trust fund. Next slide, please. Policy improvements. We've updated several affordable housing policies in the Broward County Land Use Plan. The county conducted a rational nexus study by FIU for both new residential and commercial development. Broward County revised methodology to determine the supply and demand of affordable housing in each Broward municipality. And so the Broward County Needs Assessment that is published by FIU now has for each Broward municipality what that supply and demand is at 120, 80, and 60% of AMI. So for those municipalities, specifically in Central Broward, that really always felt like they had ample affordable housing, now recognizes the reality that there is not a single city in Broward County that is meeting the need of affordable housing at AMI of less than 100%. And that is critically important because, again, when you think about the fact that half of Broward is Alice or below, that is the AMI 60% and 80%. Half of Broward County employees earn 60% of area median income. So when we're talking about affordable housing, we're not just talking about market rate or less than market rate at 100 or 120%, but really trying to focus our efforts on addressing that huge gap and need for the 80% and specifically for 60% of area median income and below. And of course, we have supported a number of municipal initiatives in cities such as Hollywood and Fort Lauderdale to develop their own innovative strategies on how to address affordable housing. Next slide, please. Public awareness and advocacy. Of course, we established in 2018, alongside that trust fund, we established and promoted a campaign to help address the stigmas associated with affordable housing. Hopefully, you all remember our Affordable Housing Affects You, Me, Us campaign. And that was really intended to help everyone recognize that every single person, business owner, employee, everyone that lives, works, plays, learns, or visits Broward County is impacted by the affordable housing crisis. And how do we unite around recognizing that either you yourself are facing housing instability because of the crisis, or perhaps equally as important, you rely on the people that are struggling with housing instability. Through Broward Days, we reinvigorated the Broward Days Housing Impact Team to strengthen those advocacy efforts, both traveling up to Tallahassee every year to advocate for housing, and throughout the year sharing important information through our email efforts. And if you'd like to be added to that, please shoot me an email. And then, of course, and most notably, giving a shout out to so many of you that are on the call, engaging nonprofit, government, and business partners to really create a community model for addressing the affordable housing crisis. And way too many partners on here to name, but certainly want to acknowledge some of the CCB partners that have really dug deeper into addressing affordable housing, including the Greater Fort Lauderdale Alliance, the Broward Behavioral Health Coalition, Broward County, the Children's Services Council, etc. Next slide, please. But perhaps most notably, and again, I want to give yet another shout out to Ralph Stone, but we really want to tout a little bit and just briefly highlight Broward's Gap Financing Program. We've had so much success. We really are a Florida model. I know that the senator is going to touch on it, so I don't want to steal her thunder, but 0% loan over 30 years, paid back in full at the end of the term. So again, this is not just a giveaway to developers. This really is a sustainable feature for Broward County, something that we really all should be proud of. It is a slow rolling revolving loan program, adjusted the affordability period from 30 to 50, bonus points for projects that commit to 99 years of affordability, and all the projects funded in fiscal year 25 committed to that 99-year affordability period. Next slide. We can brag, folks, all of you can brag to your colleagues around the state. Our average gap subsidy per unit is the lowest in Florida. When we started this effort, we were talking about $50,000 per unit. That, of course, is a national average that folks talk about when they talk about needing gap. And we have brought that down to less than $36,000 per unit. And you'll see some really great statistics here on the great work that the GAP financing program has done. Again, kudos to the entire county commission, but specifically to Senator Nanrich for really being the champion. Next slide, please. And again, using that $35,875 per unit subsidy over 50 years and 99 years really shows the cost per day. At 50 years, it's $1.97 per day per unit. And over the course of 99 years, it's a little bit more than $1 per day per unit. And that is truly transformative. You'd really be hard to argue that it is not worth spending $1 per day to ensure that a family and a household does no longer experiences housing instability and becomes stronger and more resilient. Some quick data here on the economic impact of those 4,300 affordable units that have been built with the GAP financing. And you can see those metrics here. Anyone that's interested in diving deeper in those metrics, we're more than happy to brag. But now 9,000 residents across Broward County are no longer experiencing housing instability. That means that children are doing better in school. That means that employees are able to do better and be more effective and more efficient in their jobs. It means that they're less reliant on the social services system of care safety net. And they are, again, not only more resilient, but they are happy and healthier. Next slide, please. That concludes our slide. And really, I wanted to take the time, for those of you that have not spent time with Senator Rich, we really couldn't have a more stalwart champion of housing. I have been so humbled to be able to work with her for the last 10 years, to be able to bounce ideas off of her, to brag that she's no longer up in Tallahassee, that she's here now in Broward County. And if you've ever seen her on the dais, she is unparalleled to anyone in being able to throw out data and statistics and address anything that anyone says that might not be accurate or might really stray away from the myths and misconceptions that we have worked so hard to eradicate. And so, Senator, I'm going to ask you just a couple questions that really highlights and articulates the great work that you've done. Some of these I've touched on a little bit, but would really love to have you elaborate a little bit more. First and foremost, what was the nexus for convening the CCB in 2016 to focus on affordable housing? You're on mute.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
Well, the nexus probably was several people who asked me or suggested that I become the chair. So, in 2016, I had just been elected. I actually was on my way to being elected to the county commission, and so I remember Cindy Ehrenberg Seltzer, my friend, was the first one to come and say, "You need to do this." The CCB had kind of just it was in a kind of state of just not, it wasn't active, let's put it that way. It was inactive, and so we decided that it was really important to bring it back. And I will tell you that the first thing we did, as you recall, was to hire you as our executive director, which was the best thing we did.
Mhm.
And those 10 years, I can't believe it's 10 years, but it is just about. So, but we've done a lot in that time. And the best thing is how we've coordinated the community. It's a coordinating council. And we have partnerships and relationships, community activism all across this community which has been a really critical part of the affordable housing. The way that the business community has stepped up. Many of you may have seen the recent op-ed piece by Walter Duke. He's constantly out there, is raising the flag for affordable housing and doing such a great job with the business community. But it's beyond, it's everything. It's the educational institutions. It's the hospital districts, the healthcare community, just all across the board, government entities. And we've been very fortunate to have just great support for the CCB reconvening. And I think that I will say, you mentioned Ralph many times today already, and I have to mention him again, because I'll never forget when he came to present to us. We were trying to figure out what our priority should be. What was the number one issue? And, we had different people coming in, but when Ralph got finished, I think it was just unanimous. Everybody knew that affordable housing was where we needed to go. And that's really what started us out. So I'm really thrilled that we've been able to accomplish so much. And you've talked a lot about it. I'll talk a little bit about it too. But one of the first things that we did was to get the Affordable Housing Trust Fund passed, which was critical to what we've been doing. I look at all my years in the Florida legislature, 12 years, and dealing with the Sadowski Trust Fund, which we never could get our fair share of those dollars. We put in much more, $100 million plus dollars more than we ever got back. But we needed to have a funding source of our own that we could control. And it's not easy, to establish that and to make sure it's maintained. But unlike the Sadowski Trust Fund in Tallahassee, ours is a lockbox. And that's why the voters voted 73%, I believe, because they understood that this money was going nowhere but affordable housing. Once it was, earmarked for that, that's it. So that's been, I think, a big, important thing. That was something that, we all worked together on that. It was on charter amendment, so it was a lot to get that all done. But and then a wonderful campaign. So we were successful with that. And that's been a key factor, I think. You can't do it without the money, and you can't rely on Tallahassee, unfortunately, to fill that gap. I was looking at the money that's coming in this year from sale and ship from Tallahassee, and they've maintained pretty much of it this year. But again, we don't know what percentage, totally, gets put everywhere. So we need our own source of revenue, and that's what we've done here. And I will want to talk a little bit more about gap financing when we get to that, because that's another critical thing that we did. Yeah.
No, yes, no, please talk about the gap financing program.
Okay, well, so the gap financing you saw on that chart, right now between 2018 and 2025, $154,300,000 has been awarded in gap financing. And I get so excited every time that Ralph comes, and he did something wonderful also. He made the process shorter in a lot of cases by going from an RFP to an RFI, I think it's called, request for information. And we've been able to get things much faster, through the process. And because this is a long process, getting, the land use and going through all of that, and then also getting the financing. So and the building, and everybody kind of knows. I'm going to talk about in a minute about a couple of special projects that did a really great job with that. But I look at in March of 2024, I happened to pick up this morning and just looked at a number of projects, 7 projects here that were approved by the commission with gap financing. And it was multiple cities, Fort Lauderdale, Hollywood, 2 of them, Lauderdale 2, Sunrise, Pompano Beach, all of these incredible opportunities for affordable housing. And we approved all of them because we had the money and we had the ability to do gap financing. And I will say that the gap financing is a model that is, And Ralph remembers that we talked about doing a bond, which would have given us debt, which, by the way, the county doesn't have now. We are incredibly fiscally responsible. We have a large reserve. We don't have any debt, and we have a AAA bond rating. So we're in a great position by using this gap financing, which you just heard explained by Sandra, that is kind of a revolving fund. And I will say it's exciting that we've been able to move out the deadlines with all of this so that things don't turn to market rate fast like they used to. You used to have something that was there for like 20 years or something, or some even less. But we went 30, 50, and now you heard with additional bonus points, you go to 99 years where it stays affordable and doesn't turn over to market rate, which is incredibly important. So that gap financing has been, I think just really a godsend for us here in the county. And the most important part of it really now is to keep the pressure up. And I'm going to say this to everybody I know a lot of the people on this call, because they're advocates and they come to the county commission and they advocate all the time, whenever we have anything on the agenda. But I want you to please consider, maintaining that intense kind of advocacy, because this year is a difficult year for everybody, for federal, state, because of the cuts that are going to be coming from federal and state coffers. And we are very fortunate because of this gap financing and having this money available. But we have to make sure that because we cannot bind one commission to the next year. Every year it has to be voted on when we vote on the budget. So we have to make sure. Right now we are putting in 90% of that money that comes in to affordable housing. So that's a big increase from what it used to be. And we're going to have this year, I think it's $27 million again in gap financing available. And
Nan,
that's
let me just quickly pause for a second, because that is huge. Again,
Yeah.
because it is budget season. We
Yep.
do want to remind everyone that County Administrator Sapero did budget $27 million for
budgeted
housing this
27
year.
million, right?
And so we really want everyone, especially those of you that might already be meeting with commissioners and or have relationships with commissioners, to please ask them, encourage them to supporting that item and thanking them, really, because it was only because County Administrator Sapero felt that she knew that this was such a top priority, that in such a difficult budget year that she did budget 27 million. So again,
Yeah.
kudos to the entire commission for recognizing that even during difficult times, it made it that much more important to really lean into housing.
Yeah, but I think you need to recognize that there's a finite amount of money, and people look at that fund sometimes and want to move some of it to other things. Now, economic development has been, suggested. Well, to me, and I hope to every one of you, affordable housing is economic development. Affordable housing is dealing with solving homelessness. So many of the problems that we have across the community, it's affordable housing that actually is the issue. So I always try to maintain that, and like you said, the administrator has put that money in her recommended budget. So we just need to make sure that it stays there, and that we don't siphon anything off for other things at this point. So I think that's important.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. We are over time, but I really, for those of you that are willing to stay, I really want to hear from you. How do public policy priorities differ at the state level versus the county level? If you could reflect on your time serving as a senator versus commissioner, you bring such a great perspective.
It's much easier on the county level. Sometimes it may not seem that way, but when I'm sitting around the table arguing for this money for housing. But I have to tell you, I mean, first of all, you focus much more on it. It's more granular. It's more on the local level, and you're understanding what the needs are in your local community. Listen, there are affordable housing needs all over the state, but it's been proven through our needs assessments with Dr. Murray, both in 2018 and 2022, and then through the 10-year adoption of the 10-year affordable housing plan, that we have the worst problem, unfortunately, because of lower wages and higher cost of housing. I was looking at one of the figures of the increase in the original when we started doing that needs assessment, and when Dr. Murray said we went from crisis to catastrophe when we went from 18 to 22, and when you look at the cost that we were talking in 2018, the price of a medium cost of a home was $360,000. Now it's over $600,000. So you can see what's happened. And we know that it's the latest study, I believe, had 60% of residents are cost burdened, which means that they're spending more than 30% of their income on affordable housing, and 50% of those are spending 50% of their income on affordable housing. So that's, has a tremendous impact on everybody across the county. And I think that's something also that has finally changed, that people understand. And it's not that I share the need for firefighters, police, and teachers, but they are not the only ones. It goes all across the spectrum. So many occupations where people cannot afford housing. So that's why, we're doing what we're doing. And I think I feel like we're a model. I've been told that by Dr. Murray from FIU. We are a model for the state. We are the only ones that have a 10-year affordable housing master plan. And hopefully we're just going to stick to it and, continue. And we know it's slow progress. It doesn't happen overnight, but you just have to, maintain it. But it's much easier to do on a local level than it is to do on the state level. You're dealing with so many different, ideas, political ideas, and what money should be spent on or not spent on. And in this community, fortunately, our commission has been very unanimously really supportive of affordable housing. We have a little differences in percentages and things like that, but overwhelmingly we really believe that it. And I look at my district, and the one thing I do is what I did on the state level. I look at the whole state. If there is a child in foster care, I don't care where they are in the state, that program is not working, we have to fix it. But here, when I'm in the county, I can focus on what's going on right here in Broward County, and that's what I think we've done, and hopefully we'll continue to do.
Great. Last question, because I know that we're over time, but I can't not ask it. What do you see as the biggest obstacle for us moving forward and continuing to address housing affordability issues in Broward?
Well, I touched on it a little. I think the climate right now is very challenging in terms of funding. So we have our own, pot of money that we can use. So I think the land issue, that we're a built out community, that that we have a very, there are multiple populations. That's what's challenging. And I want to mention, because we have been providing and building affordable housing for many different populations, and it's really important. Isabel mentioned seniors. So there's been multiple senior housing developments coming up. But I had two that I had pulled out that I thought were very special. And I know that Fran was on this call, but I have to say that 7 on 7th, for instance, that was a groundbreaking affordable housing development, 72 units for people coming out of homelessness. And I will never forget meeting at a reception. The first family to move in was a single mom with 2 children who had lived had come from the shelter, had the opportunity to become a dental hygienist. And she moved into that building with her 2 children. And I thought to myself, this is what it's about. I mean, helping people like that so they can have stable lives, they can live with dignity and have housing. So that was really exciting for me. So that was 72. And we're looking forward anxiously for Aspire 1850, which is going to be another one of these up in the Pompano Beach area at the North Hack. So it'll be about 100 units, I think, or a little over 100 units. So, and we're finally, thank goodness, Sandra is chair of the Florida Housing Finance Corporation, and they finally got the okay and the grant on that. So that was great. And the other one was the Southwest Hammocks ribbon cutting. This is an amazing story on the Howard Foreman campus of a housing development that was built by Carrefour, a nonprofit organization, and it's built for supportive housing for people living with mental illness. And I'll never forget the group of parents that came to me. It was quite some time ago now, talking about where they were so concerned and frightened about where their children would live if something happened to them. And that dream became a reality this past year in February of 2025. Brand new facility. It's in Pembroke Pines. It is absolutely wonderful. And it's serving some of the community's most vulnerable residents. And it's 100 supportive housing unit designed for adults living with severe and persistent mental illness, and earning 60% or less of area median income. What could be better? So these are the kinds of things we're working on, and I just want to say it's an ongoing challenge, but the bottom line is we need to just maintain our commitment here, and we are going to be able to do a lot more to help families and have housing and as I said, live with dignity in Broward County. So I want to just thank everyone. I know there's all kinds of people on this call that have been involved with this and committed to it. But you, Sandra, thank goodness, the things happened the way they did 10 years ago. And thank goodness for Ralph Stone. And so we're going to just keep on working. And thank you all for being on the call today and for having such interest in making this a reality in our community.
Agreed. Senator, thank you so much for joining us today. I mean, I could continue to go, but we've got to be respectful of everyone's time, and I know
Right.
you have to go as well. Isabel, thank you for the really informative presentation. The chat is full, both main chat and private to me, about how informative this was. Again, another shout out to Yana and to Harrison, because they keep the wheels turning behind the scenes. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. In the chat, you have an invite to our next webinar. You also have the op-ed that the senator mentioned from Walter Duke that recently was published in the Sun Sentinel. You will have a copy of the presentation that will live on the ccbroward.org website, and certainly also want to give a shout out to our neighbor to the north, Suzanne Cabrera. Palm Beach County also has a housing plan, and so she dropped the link in there from the Housing Leadership Council. Again, thank you everyone for joining us today. Thank you for being housing advocates, and never let anyone say that we are not doing anything about housing
Right.
because we most certainly are. Have a wonderful afternoon, and you all know how to reach us if you need. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.